speaker for tonight, Richie B from Santa Monica, California.
Richie alcoholic. Oh wow, look at us. Oh, this is nice. This is a good group. Patrick, thank you so much for asking me to speak. Grateful to be here. I'm really stoked to be in a synthetic suit in this church. It feels great. If I pass out at any point, you understand why. Yeah, Alex, thanks for the meeting. I want to thank Joel for housing me. I don't know where you went, but thank you. And appreciate it. Thanks, brother. And for the ride. And Austin, thank you. Allison, you crushed. There you are. Crushed it. And 10 minutes is such a tough pitch, you know? I feel like it's not enough time to get loaded, and it's not enough time to get sober. And I think describe the whole step and tradition, and it's just 10 minutes. You kind of song and dance, and then just exit stage right? I want to welcome you if you're new. I want to congratulate anyone celebrating any sort of milestone or birthday. And here we are in the old A&A. Before I lose you to whatever your plans are this evening, there's a couple things you should know. If you hear nothing else, first of which is, I love my life. I love my life. My life is incredible. My life is good, like dumb good, like unfair good. The second thing is, it's 100% due to Alcoholics Anonymous. And what that says to me is that this program works. And so if you hear nothing else, the reason I love my life is 100% due to Alcoholics Anonymous. That's kind of wild. And I didn't want to give AA that credit, you know, when I started getting going, because I thought, 100? Really? Like, I put in some effort, you know, I put in some work, a little more than zero. But the reality is, without AA, I'm not sober. If I'm not sober, I don't have this good life. And I'm sure if you're new, you are so stoked for me in my awesome life. Oh man, I think I'm supposed to stand out there and you can thank me. We can get into details. I can show you pictures of the kids. I can show you my teeth. You know, I see the dentist every 6 months. Credit scores. It's you know, lots of insurance policies. It's crazy. Life got good, right? So I'm really grateful to be sober. I want to thank the crew that we all went to eat before this. That was a lot of fun. We got rained out. That was cool. I just got back from Ireland like a few days ago, and you know, I didn't need any more rain, but it was still good. Let's see. So before you get any ideas, I'm not very smart. I came out like Forrest Gump. I'm not a smart man. It's funny. I'm not very bright. All signs point left, and I'm like, yo, I bet you can go right, you know? I'm not like, the thing that makes me not smart is that I think I am. There's this part of me that really thinks I'm smarter than the average bear. And I think I'm a work smarter, not harder type of guy, and anywhere else in the world that makes a lot of sense. But not here. But let's go back a little bit. So I was raised by my mom. My mom was 19 when she had me. She had just turned 19. I never met my biological father, Bob. I never met Bob. I found out about 12 so years ago that he passed away. And I got a copy of the death certificate. Having never met this man, I got a copy of the death certificate, and it stated primary cause of death was alcoholism or alcoholic intoxication / alcoholism, and then the underlying was depression. And I was like, I get it, you know, like now I understand why you didn't call. Yeah, good old Bob. Mom's high school sweetheart, Bob. But mom and I grew up together, and my mom's parents were a bit unorthodox. They said she tried to hide being pregnant for as long as she could. When she could hide it no longer, and they found out she was pregnant, they said, if you decide to keep it, you're out. And it is your speaker this evening. And they were not bluffing. They dropped her off at St. Anne's Home for Unwed Mothers. And when I say dropped her off, what I mean is they pulled into the parking lot. They opened the door, they put her luggage, I don't know if you guys remember that Aquafresh green luggage with the gold latches, No one ever got a new set of that, but everyone always had a piece of it. But anyway, and they put it right there in the parking lot, and they said, "Hope you learned your lesson," and they pulled away. She's 6 months pregnant, had to lift that herself and walk into this dormitory setting with about 60, 70 other young women that either just had a child or were about to have a child. And she stayed there for quite some time, and then the nuns would come up to her every day and say, "Hey, there's an infertile, loving Catholic family that would just be over the moon to have that child." And every day they'd come and say that. And finally, she kind of hit her limit. She said, "Listen, sister, I'll make a deal with you. If it's a girl, you can give her to that family. But if it's a boy, I'm keeping him." Oh, kind of won the coin toss on that one. Could have looked a lot different, you know what I mean? But we grew up together, you know, and I can't imagine being 19 years old and just having a child and not having support from her parents, not having support from the father of the child, and she was on her own. And so we bounced around a lot, we moved a lot. By the time I had gotten to high school, I had been to 15 different schools. And there was always going to a new school, and I learned how to make friends quickly, and my mom was always working 2 or 3 jobs, waiting tables, whatever, just to keep lights on and food on the table, and I didn't even know. Like, I know this now. At the time, it was seamless. I just knew we had a pretty cool life. My mom was really fun to be around when she was around. She was just really busy, you know, and so I was a latchkey kid from 6 years old on. I hope you understand, none of my story makes me an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic because when I drink alcohol, we'll get there, but you know what I mean? It's not because I was a latchkey kid at 6. You know? But I'd walk home about a mile or so, and then I'd let myself in. If I was smart, I would turn the lights on, and even though it was daytime, and I'd plop myself in front of the TV and watch TV until it was time to put myself to bed. And the reason you turn the lights on right away is because if you watch TV that long and it gets dark, you turn it off, it's dark, they can get you, whoever they are. Funny thing about they came back later when I was drinking. Yeah, all of a sudden they are there to get me in the dark. But anyway, funny thing about that though is when mom wasn't working, I think she felt bad for working so much. My mom, are we cool? We're cool, right? Yes, thank you. Yeah, we're cool. My mom tucked me in until I was 15. That's why I give off this kind of tough exterior, you know what I mean? You get tucked in until you're 15, people start crossing the street to avoid you, it's weird. Let's be real, growing up I was kind of a pansy, but whatever. You know, my mom was always checking in about my feelings and things like that. I couldn't have anything, like I couldn't even have a real gun, let alone anything that resembled a gun. I got an easy bake oven instead, that was cute. Friends are trying to play war, I'm baking brownies, you know. Soldiers get hungry. There's a John Wooden quote that talks about things work out best for those who make the best of how things work out. And that's just kind of how we live. My mom ingrained that into me without even knowing. She was just a child. She told me years later she didn't even know what she was doing. I remember this one time I was shooting a basketball. Just a quick story, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I was shooting a basketball, regular size rim. I think I'm about 6 years old, which means mom's 25, right? Without any help. And I'm missing terribly. And I'm getting frustrated. And I come up to mom and I said, "I can't do it." She looks down at me and I'll never forget it. And she goes, "Yeah, you're right." I was like, I intuitively knew. She was always so supportive and loving and encouraging. And I'm thinking something's amiss here. And she saw the look that I was confused. And she said, "Whether you say you can or can't, you're right." I'm like, all right, whatever. And then she says, "I want you to pick up the ball. I want you to stand where you're standing before. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to picture it going in. And I want you to say, I can, I can, I can." And so, of course, I was a punk. I was a sweet kid, but I was also a punk. And so I grabbed the ball and I closed my eyes. I basically blink. And then I just go, I can, and just toss it on the ground to kind of prove to her it doesn't work like that. And then she said another little gem. She said, "If that's what you put into it, that's what you'll get out of it." And maybe because I was 6, you know, maybe because I was naive, maybe because I thought the word of mom was gospel, I grabbed the ball, I stood where I was, closed my eyes, pictured it going in, really pictured it going in, said, I can, and started laughing. And so I thought, man, I got to say it again, because I don't want to laugh at it, I want it to be real. And I said, I can, and I shot it, and I made it. And my mom was on the sidelines, and I don't know this. I'm like, oh, this works. And I go about my whole life. I get sober finally, and I'm telling everyone this story about how I've lived my life on this I can. And my mom cuts me off at my first sobriety dinner, and she tells everyone, I was 25 and had no idea what I was saying. I just didn't want you to give up. I knew you couldn't make it. And I went, she's like, we both learned something that day. So relationship with mom is very tight. Actually, I just got back, as I mentioned, from Ireland. My mom lives in Ireland, so I got to visit her with my children, and that was really cool. So somewhere along the way, I discovered alcohol. I didn't know it was going to be such a big deal. I didn't know I was going to be speaking all over the world, about it. I would have had someone film my first drink or something. I don't remember when it was, or at least like a before and after photo shoot of my first drink. Like my before photo, my arms are crossed, I'm kind of scowling at the world, pretty tightly wound. The after photo is pretty much the exact same thing. I'm just naked and sweating. You almost don't notice the difference. I don't know how you guys get down, but like I start drinking, I get like a couple few in me, and right away my clothes start to feel real restrictive. So I'm quickly in the buff, like and at that point everyone's like, "Yo, what are you doing?" At which point I know I've arrived. I don't know about you, but point A is where I'm at. I can't stand point A. And this is drinking or sober, just understand this. Point A, I can't stand it. I can be in the penthouse, and I'm always like, man, the party's at that other spot. We should have went to that other party. I don't know why we ended up here. And then I get to that other party, I'm like, man, why would we ever leave that first party? This is dumb. And I'm never satisfied. And then I'm in the gutter, and then I'm blaming the world. I'm in the gutter like, man, I was never dealt a fair hand. This is bogus. And it doesn't matter where I am, it's me. And point B is this magical place that doesn't exist, because as soon as I get there, it's point A again, because I brought me with me. It's like that blinking blue dot on my maps program. Always there. No matter where I am, I'm me. And so, I forget what math class it is, where they talk about, I don't know why math switches from numbers to letters and points. That's not math. That's actually letters and points. But apparently the shortest distance between 2 points is not just a straight line, but math. But a straight line, right? But not for me. I got an angle to get there quicker. And I like taking a scenic route. I like taking the slow path, and I don't realize it. And all my life I'm told that I have a lot of potential if I'd only apply myself. And I told you about not being very bright. The funny thing about that is you give me a number 2 pencil in a bubble test, I crush it. I end up in top percentiles, state seals, calligraphy, a lot of potential if I only apply myself. I'm going places. People are like, man, you can really do it. So as soon as I hear that, I kind of just check it off the list like I did it, because you just told me I could. Why waste time? We're good here. But apparently life doesn't work like that, You can't just count that. You can't cash potential checks. You got to get a real job. And so there's this little voice inside of me that there's this bravado that tells me, and I believe, that I can do anything. And I try to show you that I've got it down, and I'm good. You'll see, I'm going to take over. And there's this little voice inside, that little Jiminy Cricket, that's like, man, you ain't got it, dude. Whatever they see in you, wrong. Whatever you think, yeah, no, you're not the one. And so sort of learning how to navigate that mindset has been something I've carried deep into sobriety, right? Cut to, had my first drink. I'm not like heavy drinking by any means. I'm having it here and there. My mom somehow, some way, raising me, working 2-3 jobs, gets into, after community colleges, multiple, gets into UCLA. From Santa Monica, I was born and raised, and she gets into UCLA. We're living in UCLA housing, and I meet my best friend Damien, nicknamed Boyo. His nickname was Boyo. And I meet Damien, and Damien's mom is a single mom. We're a couple months apart in age, and he's a little more street savvy, and we're kindred spirits. We click immediately. And we're always on the fringe of gangs. We're getting in a lot of trouble, robbing houses, tagging, tackle football on cement, like a bunch of stuff that made sense in the moment, And then all of a sudden, we're on the fringe of gangs, like I said, and then we end up going separate routes. My mom considered him a bad influence and whatever, which, whatever. I ended up getting thrown into Catholic school. Damien ends up going the gang route, and we go different ways. And then some years pass by, and we come back into each other's lives. And the last time I see Damien, this is how he looked. Dude's rocking size 50, 5'0" waist, not European, size 50 Dickies. He's got a white t-shirt that he would iron and crease, which apparently that's like super gangster. I don't like ironing button-ups, but apparently ironing t-shirts is like super gangster, which kind of makes you wonder about like vacuuming and dusting, which must be like mob boss or something. I different letters. We thought we were so tough. And that's the last time I seen him, right? And then I see him at this coffee shop, so a few years have passed by, and Damien's sitting at this two-top, and he's got his legs crossed the artsy way, and he's got a non-filter camel in his hand, and he's got some, if I have to describe his outfit at this point, I'd say those pants are pretty form-fitting, might as well go say tight. Polyester blends, dark brown, they seem dated. He had a mismatched polo on, definitely nothing gangster about it. And I'm thinking, dude must have slipped and bumped his head. And he's by himself, and I see him, and I see him, and I haven't seen him in some years. I go, hey, boyo, because we were best friends. I'm like, hey, boyo, what's good? And this dude big leagues me, straight Hollywoods me, and he's like, just head nods. I'm like, ugh. Like, well, we've done dirt together, and you're just gonna head nod me? Like, bro. And then I go, hey, you wanna go throw a couple back over at Dell's Saloon, which was this bar down the street? And he's like, nah, man, I don't drink. I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I said that out loud. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just assumed or like believed that he was about to die or something, or there was some reason he could not drink. His innards were broken or something. I don't know. And then he goes, nah, man, don't trip. I'm in AA. I don't take anything that affects me from the neck up. What? Like, I had never heard anyone talk like that. I was like, what? And he saw the look of judgment and confusion on my face, and I was just like, and he goes, you know what, dude, don't worry about it. It's not for you. I was like, ooh, excuse me? Like, listen, bro, your little neck up club might benefit from my presence. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of Goldilocks that way, you know? Like, don't tell me where I should be, because, like, don't do that. But then also, don't not invite me. You know, like, I like it just right. Like, invite me, and if I feel like coming, then I'll be there. And if not, I'm not going to be there. And so what's interesting about that, everyone in my life at that point had an idea of where I should be. My mom thought I should be back in college, which I thought was super cute. I went to one day of Santa Monica City College. I never went back, but I should go back to college. My grandmother was a smart woman. She cast a much wider net. She said, you should join the armed forces. She didn't even specify which division. She was like, you could benefit from any of them. I think she would have been happy with crossing guard, let alone, Coast Guard. So I knew to stay away from mom and grandma, because the weird part of my illness is I know better than you. This little hole you think I'm in, I'm gonna end up getting out of that. Not only will I get out of it, I'm gonna ascend to heights, like I'm gonna end up in history books, at which point more than likely you'll come crawling back for a handout, and then I get to laugh in your face. And it's these delusions of grandeur, this like Bill Wilson, I proved to the world I was important, like I just was so lost. And none of you know me. I did nothing historical. I've ended up in no books, let alone history books. It's kind of how that works. So Damien was not the enemy. Had he said, hey, you should come check it out, I would have been like, ooh, because I don't know about you, but when I'm sober, or when I'm drinking, anyone that's sober is a narc. Like, they're not to be trusted. I'm sorry, what's up? Like, I feel like anyone that's sober is shady. Like, what are you doing? What's your angle? How do you navigate through this world without putting something into your system? Something's up with you, And meanwhile, I'm the shadiest person in the room, but anyway. So we start kicking it tough like old times. We're trying to get into clubs in Hollywood and catching the old RTD out there. Typically getting denied, and most of the nights we'd end up like, at a coffee shop just playing dominoes, or sometimes we'd find out where the party was in the hills, or it could be the best night of our lives or the most boring night of our lives. And Damien was stone cold sober, always. And I didn't understand that, because for me, I need it for all moments. And so I was super confused. I didn't understand how he could enjoy or be bored sober. I was young. And so Damien, during this time, sort of acknowledges or realizes that I might benefit from the Neck Up Club. And so he tricks me into my first meeting on Thanksgiving morning, 1998. And I didn't know this. It was about 6:45 in the morning. I'd been up for a few days. I don't know how you all get when you've been up for a few days drinking, but I'm sure some of you already figured out I'm a little weird. I know Sam, you know I'm weird. Sam, I love Sam. But there's a whole other level that none of you have seen, because you take away sleep and food and add a lot of booze. I just get real weird. And so it's 6:45 in the morning, and Boyo says, hey dude, let's roll to this meeting right quick. And I go, hey dude, no. Like, I'm not trying to go to NARC headquarters. Like, what are you talking about? I need to get to 4 very private walls, so I can, remove my clothing and sweat profusely and just keep drinking and whatever. He says what he needs to get me to go. He says, will you just go to support me? And I'm like, because I had that loaded loyalty. What's funny is Damien didn't stay sober at that time. Like, he stayed sober for a while. He got like 4 or 5 years. And then shortly thereafter, he relapsed. I didn't get sober right then. And then he hit me up we were drinking, and he says, hey bro, let's go rob Rite Aid. And I waited a beat. And I had some questions, but I knew that Damien knew that I had some questions. He would more than likely answer them. And he did. And he said, he says, back door's open, no cameras, place is empty. I was like, let's roll. Rob Rite Aid, I'm in. Go to an AA meeting, instant no. Kind of tells you where my head's at, right? So going back to this first meeting, he tricks me into it, and I go, okay, fine. And he says, don't trip, it's over at this log cabin in West Hollywood. And I was like, oh, really, Lincoln? I was like, what year is it, log cabin? I'm like, and sure enough, we get there, and it's a log cabin. I'm like, yo, how's this place survived all these years? And then he prefaces our little field trip to A&A, and he says, oh, dude, don't worry, it's not a cult. And I go, oh, cool, wait, I'm sorry, I've never been anywhere on the planet where someone said beforehand, don't worry, it's not a cult. So immediately I know it's a cult. And so we get there. Oh, mind you, at the time, I always forget this, I was wearing a bright orange shirt that said, I heart heroin. Quite possibly the greatest shirt ever made. Big old puffy, glittery red heart. It was awesome. And I had washed it, and I was not a good laundry person back then, and I had dried it, and so half of it was like a crop top, but I still rocked it because that shirt's incredible, And so we get there, it's Thanksgiving morning, and the place is popping, and he got me to go, and the place is packed, like I said. And I know it's called Outwalks Anonymous, but I'm a little confused. I think I know what those words mean separately. I don't know what happens when you put them together besides improper grammar, but at this point in 1998, I'm not an alcoholic, but I'm looking around, and everyone there seems way more put together than I am, and I'm feeling like much more of an alcoholic than anyone there, so I'm confused. And he's like, we gotta go inside and save seats. I was like, save seats? I'm like, what? Okay. And we don't even get 2 seats together. We get one in the middle, one with the bench with the wall behind it. Go outside, smoke a stove, I light up a Lucky Strike non-filter, I walk off to the side, because I'm just here to support a friend. So that's the sign I put on my forehead. I'm just here to support a friend, I'm not here for whatever y'all do. And what you all see is newcomer. So everyone keeps coming up to me. First person that comes up, this big, tall, brash fella. He is loud for about 7 a.m. and he says, hey bro, he goes, hey, where'd you get that shirt? And it's ringing in my ears. And what I thought I said was, this chick I hooked up with left it at my house, you don't give a shirt like this back. And I think what came out was more along the lines of, yeah, it's not, and he's like, right on, brother, and he just walks off. Now, I don't know how you get when you've been up for a few days drinking, and there's certain things that happen to me, and my head's like, hey dude, you're in public, you need to be cool. Not even be cool, sorry, that's a lie. It's more like just don't freak people out. But my body's like, like not listening, and it starts to do some really weird things. And I get this weird jaw tick where like my jaw keeps pulling back, and then I start the whole swallowing nothing thing, and that's not good because once you start, you can't. It's like Pringles, right? Because you can't stop. And it's always this really exaggerated swallowing of nothing, and as soon as I swallow nothing, I kind of have to swallow nothing again. And then intermittently, I have this weird predator eye flash thing. And then I see something go by, sorry, correction. I see the shadow of something go by, but by the time I look, it's always gone, and then I realize you're looking at me, looking at nothing, you probably think I'm tripping, so I have to turn back. No bueno. And this guy comes up to me, this next guy, he's like, hey dude, you need to take that shirt off. That's a trigger. And I'm thinking to myself, like a part of a gun? Like what? And he's like, dude, that shirt could cause someone to get loaded. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what's with all the gun references? I was like, I'm sorry, I've never been loaded in my life. Like, loaded? Like, I don't get paid on Friday, call up the boys to be like, hey, you guys want to go get loaded? Like, I just don't talk like that. What's funny is that's how I've talked for the last, 24 years. And so, anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just weird. I admit, it's weird. And then he keeps building, who's your sponsor? How much time you got? And I'm thinking, this guy just needs to get away from me. And the meeting gets, meeting time, and so we all start funneling in. I'm thinking, that's great. Boyo puts me in the seat in the middle. He made me sit in the middle. He took the bench with the wall behind him. Would have loved that seat. I love the wall behind me. I feel so much safer. I got to keep eyes on things. I got a creepy old dude right here, suspect. Don't worry, it's probably Boyo. And then I got this woman next to me, and I'll say she was gorgeous, like model gorgeous, but no one's to be trusted. Everyone is suspect. Meeting gets going. First person gets up. They say, "Hi, so and so, alcoholic," and everyone chimes in. "Hi, so and so," and I went, "Oh, what? Like, I'm sorry. I don't have a dictionary handy, but chanting of names feels a bit cultish, And then I thought maybe that's best all around in the sober yearbook or president or whatever, so I let that one go by. And then the next person gets up and they're going to read a portion of chapter 5 from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And then I'm looking at this big book and I'm thinking, yo, I've seen bigger. Oh, but this is the big book. Okay, every other big book is not the big book. I was like, man, you guys are on one. And this potion of this spell of this sorcerer's book and and they're going to read this chapter and I'm like, whatever. And then they read it and then A, B, and then C, and everyone chimes in again. God could and would if he were. I didn't know what the last word was, didn't need to. Heard chanting, heard God. It's a cult. So I look at my boy on the bench and I go, Boyo. I was like, this is a cult. I was like, and he's doing the whole pump the brakes thing because he knows I'm on one because I'm on one. And then all of a sudden the next person gets up and they're like, there's no dues or fees for AA membership. And I was thinking, well, that's cool. Like, at least they're not charging for this creepy cult. And then all of a sudden a basket goes by. And I'm like, oh, hold up. Wait, what? And I realized it's this weird Jedi mind trick where they're like, there's no dues or fees. And everyone's like, there's no dues or fees. You can't Jedi a Jedi. Nice try. I ain't the one, I almost said the creepy old dude to my right because he was putting a real dollar in the basket. I almost said to him, oh, no, he just said there's no dues or fees. But I stopped myself because, you know what I mean? Like, who knows? He might be in on it. And I look at my boy on the bench because I was like, who gets the cash? Like, who gets the money? Because I thought it was a charity thing. Like the brokest mofo there gets the money. And I'm like, I'm in the running, He waves me off. He just kept waving me off. And I didn't understand that we were self-supporting. I didn't know what self-supporting was because I wasn't. I didn't, when I read the book and had to define words like altruistic, I realized once I looked it up why I didn't know the meaning. It's funny how these things work. But the meeting kept going, and something that we do in LA, AA, that's not truly specific, but I will say it's more there than anywhere else. We clap. Boy, oh boy, do we love clapping. We clap for everything. Someone takes another sober breath, and we're like, Grr! And then the biggest applause is always whoever makes coffee, and they're like, coffee, Brian! And I just wanted to follow you to Starbucks and see if you clap for the barista. Like, it's a grande, you put the lid on. I'm like, man, you guys just can't stop. And then we held hands at the end and said the Lord's Prayer, and I went, oh, for sure. And then walked outside, lit up my Lucky Strike non-filter, and Boyo came out, and he goes, well, what'd you think? And I go, never. He goes, what? And I go, never. And then I realized he had that look like he was sort of hurt but confused. And I said, dude, it looks like you found what you're looking for, or this is your get down or whatever, but like, what'd you guys say? Keep fighting the good fight. Come back tomorrow. Like, do that, bro, and I ain't the one. And funny thing about never. Here I am in Neverland. A little sober Peter Pan, yeah, it's a trip. There's a part in the book that talks about being beaten into a state of reasonableness. I had to go through alcoholic boot camp in order for me to believe that this was a viable solution to my problem. I thought that I could figure out how to drink and live successfully. And unfortunately, that's just not an option. Bless you. Somehow, I don't know how to drink and be able to enjoy my life. Things just continue to fall apart. And I tried to prove to myself, no, I got this. I just have to try harder. I even had friends when I would get sober, they're like, dude, you're way cooler when you're like drinking. Like, you're no fun when you're sober. You're miserable. I'm like, and I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just live life on the natch? Like, there's an issue here. those steps. Who knew? The old A&A. So I came back this time, but like I said, I think I'm smarter than the average bear, and I, no offense, as the Ticonderoga champ, I feel as if I can succeed where you haven't. You figured out in 12 steps, no offense, but I could probably lock it down in 2 or 3. Like, that's how I operate. Work smarter, not harder. You talk about it every meeting, half measures avail as nothing. That's bad math. I'm sorry. You work half a day at your job, you get what's called half a day's pay. You do 6 steps out of 12, you get what's called loaded. That sucks. Like, I want to be able to drink and, like I said, live successfully. And so I thought that I could half measure this or pick and choose what applied to me. And what ended up happening was I would continue to relapse. And so this time around, the only reason it's different, and I'll tell you, I have 24 years, but prior to this, the most time I've ever had before this 24 years was 45 days. And that was tooth and nail, and I lost my mind because I couldn't do this. And the thing that was missing was step work. The one thing that's different this time is that I started to work the steps with someone and continue to do enough of it over time through maintenance to keep me here to this day. I'm not exempt. I haven't figured it out. I didn't cross the finish line. I don't know how to levitate. My farts don't smell like Chanel. You know, I have a spiritual toolkit laid at my feet. The question now becomes consistency. Am I going to pick up those tools and apply them in my moments, my days? A daily reprieve is just that. Quite often, I was talking about this in the car with Austin, quite often, I wonder if I'm actually staying daily, and it's pretty obvious that I don't. There's certain elements, yeah, I can pick and choose. Again, I'm cherry picking. Prayer and meditation, sure, I can do that daily. What about the rest of it? Pen to paper, 10 steps, you know? How much service am I doing daily? How much, you know, all the different elements. And so, finding that balance for me has been interesting. You know, my life in AA got real interesting. Got jobs, I got fired, worked with newcomers, I did all the stuff. I tried stealing, got busted, you know, it's like, I didn't transcend the human condition. I was 21 when I got sober, and I know you thought I was 6 because I look like I'm 30. I know, that's cool. It's not good for me. Sobriety's a preservative, so if you're wondering, it's just one more reason to say so. Yeah, so life has been a trip. I want to tell you a little story. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we got time. Let's party. Let's sweat it out, a little sweat lodge. We're just all start tripping after a while. Like, I'm still feeling faint. Actually, Sammy knows this part of my story because this was her best friend at the time. I met my now ex-wife at an AA dance, right? At one of those herpy paw dances. I don't know if you guys have been to herpy paw, but it's a lot of fun. Herpy paw is like the largest Y paw there is, and some people are part of herpy paw that don't know they're part of herpy paw, but they're helping it grow. It's all good. Y-paw is like, anytime you hear the E-paw, crazy paw, loony paw, beaker paw, it's Y-paw, Y-P-A-A, young people in AA. It's the future of AA. It's an amazing thing, and I'm so grateful to have been a part of that and grown up in that and got angry at people for picking colors of balloons and things. It all matters, you know what I mean? But it helps a lot of people to have things to go to and to do, right? But I met my wife. It was a Halloween dance. Okay, were you a sailor? Yeah. That's right. Sam the sailor. And my ex was dressed up like Jessica Rabbit, and I'll tell you right now, boy oh boy, did I have to have it. No, not like that. Like, my intentions were pure. I was trying to get to know her for her program and, you know, her personality. You guys are real. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you I tried to get her to a hotel room that night. She was trying something new under sponsorship direction, and so she denied me, which was cute. I asked her to be my girlfriend a couple weeks later, you know, in true AA fashion, and then 3 years later we got married, and it's been a fun run. It was a fun run, right? And so it was interesting too because right after we got married, a lot of people started dying. I lost a grandfather. I lost 2 grandfathers in a period of a week. She lost one of hers in that same week, and then my uncle, by way of blowing the fuse box, lighting the house on fire that my mom was living with after, these are the same grandparents that kicked her out. She went there and took care of them while one of them was on hospice and made sure he left this world with dignity and with no reason to. She didn't have to. That's the type of woman my mom was. decided to blow the fuse box, light the house on fire, walk up to his mom, my grandmother, the same grandmother that kicked my mom out, and he said, "Watch this," and he shot himself in the head. My mom was right there. She called 911, and she said my brother just committed suicide, and then she smelled the fire, realized the house was on fire, and said, "Oh my God, I think he lit the house on fire." She got everyone out. The place burned down. She lost everything to her name, and she came to live with my then wife and I. I thought that would be kind of smooth. We had a spare room, and I thought that would be smooth given the circumstances, but apparently there's this thing between wives and mothers. There was a lot of friction. I never wanted to come home. And after losing my grandfather, my uncle taking his life, and then we had our first miscarriage, it's interesting when you're trying to make a family after marriage and your roommate is your mom, it gets a little fun. A lot of shower time, a lot of pillow talk, what I mean? But gratefully, not like, stop, you guys, no one, I don't see any arbiters here, okay? Some of us like a little more peppa. Couple miscarriages, and I started to question everything. I think I had about 13 years at that time, or I don't even remember the timeline. The closest thing to a dad that I ever had in my life was gone, and then the miscarriages, my uncle taking his life, and my mom living with us, and she was, near catatonic, and I'm just like, man, what is this? What's going on? And I thought I worked in a good program. I was sponsoring half the West Side. I was at meetings all the time, had commitments, the whole bit. It wasn't like lack of program, and I thought that if I work a program, I'm exempt for what happens in life, these hardships. But that's not how this works. What that afforded me was the opportunity to stay sober through those hardships. And I didn't see that at the time. I just felt hurt, and I got real quiet, and I'm more than likely depressed, but I don't even know. And I was behind the 8 ball. I wasn't making any money. I owned my own company, and I wasn't putting in on it, and it was sort of new, and I started to invite abundance into my life. Someone had recommended that I invite abundance into my life, and I thought, oh God, that's so lame. It's like the last thing I want to do. I don't know about you, but I hear that, and I'm just like, ugh. I feel like someone's like touching me inappropriately when I'm inviting abundance into my life. I already own a pair of UGG slippers. You add that, and it's like it's all over. Had I only known I'd become this man when I was getting sober, I probably would have never stayed sober. But funny thing, I actually love it now. But here's the thing, I created this prayer on purpose, and I wrote it out, and I wrote the word abundance in it multiple times in different areas for specific reasons, and I can talk to you after the meeting about it. I also want to throw out a disclaimer. When I say this, I hope you understand that this prayer has nothing to do with staying sober. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous is what keeps me sober, period. Not my relationships, not my job, not my family, nothing. AA keeps me sober, right? My relationship to a higher power that AA has given me, and AA, period. The abundance prayer helps in all these other areas of life and allows me to enjoy the fruits of my labor, what God intends me to be, happy, joyous, and free, like we were talking about that, right? Because that's what we're here for, to enjoy it, to live the best life we have. And when I tell you I love my life, I mean that, and even in the toughest of times. And so I start this prayer and I say, God, thank you for your infinite grace, love, and abundance. I'm completely open to receiving and giving your infinite grace, love, and abundance. And I now invite your infinite grace, love, and abundance into my life. Thank you, and I love my life. And when I first started saying it, I would mock it because I was like, oh, abundance, And the rule I made was, much like when I was shooting that basketball, if I laughed at it, I had to say it again. In the beginning, I was saying it near 10 times. Here's the funny thing, abundance showed up within 10 days. I started making more money than I ever made in my whole life in like a period of a month. My job blew up. My company blew up. All of a sudden, Mom found a place to live. And then my ex, she got pregnant. After a couple miscarriages, we thought that was out of the cards. We did nothing special. It just kind of happened. And I started thinking like, oh man, I'm the man. Kind of crushing it. And then it dawned on me that it had nothing to do with me. And it was all God. And the timing of it was no mistake. And I was just open to God's light and abundance. And lo and behold, it showed up like you wouldn't even believe. Again, I don't want you to think that can keep you sober. I'm going to tell you guys something a little crazy. I was given the gift of one of those DNA tests, like to find out how Irish I You know, we're all a little Irish. If you care, I'm 62%. And I'm also Native American, you know, Bob. And I'm like, okay, cool. And 20% Native American, I got some Spanish. I'm like from all continents, minus a couple, you know. And then I forgot about it. But if you ever do those tests, they spam you. Every week they want another $100 to see if you're related to like Genghis Khan or something. And I'm like, I'm not giving you 100, but we're all related to Genghis Khan. Stop that. I know how this works. But this one day I wake up, I just got back from Ireland, and I was in Big Bear with my then wife and our daughter, Harper Violet, and I get that email. I check my phone first thing, right? And I'm not supposed to, but I do. I check the email and it says DNA match parent/child. I'm like, oh, that's a new one. I'm like, well, Bob's dead, and I'm thinking, oh, snaps. I'm like, prior to my ex, I'm thinking, I was kind of a low-hanging fruit kind of a guy, you know, kind of a man of convenience, if you will. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at Harper like, you've got an older brother or sister? And I open it up and it says Roy A., August 28, 1962. I'm like, not my kid, you know. Screenshot it, text mom, question mark, and she writes back very quickly, caps lock, big old F-bomb. And I'm like, what? And she says, call me. I'm like, what? Okay. And so I call her, I don't even think it rang, she picked up immediately, and she tells me about her high school sweetheart, Bob. But right before prom, she had an epic breakup with Bob. And she started dating her sweet coworker from McDonald's, 16-year-old blue-eyed Mexican Roy, Native American via Mexico. I just assumed Cherokee because I'm naive. Come to find out it's Michoacan. And I'm like, oh, let's get real Simone coming out. And she started dating sweet Roy. They hooked up just twice. She wasn't really feeling it. They went to prom together. She got back together with Bob. A lot of Bob. A couple times Roy. A lot of Bob. She gets pregnant. Bob. Oh no, Roy. Old potent Roy. So I'm tripping. I'm coming from a place of now, like, this, okay, the guy who I thought was my dad, who I never met, was gone. He's dead. Now it's this other dude, he's very much alive. Whoa, okay. And all my friends are catching on. We're in Big Bear, like I said. And so everyone gets online, internet super sleuths, trying to find this guy, Roy. And we find him first place, LinkedIn. All right, we're doing okay. Not that I needed anything, but I didn't want a dad who needed something, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, let me get money for a flight, son. It's like, oh, it's okay, just let's be pen pals. And then we find him on Facebook. And not a lot of activity, but every year he's got 2 birthdays. He's part of the Neck Up Club. He's one of us. And he lives in Covina, which is just an hour away from me. And I'm tripping. But I take a moment, I compose myself, I write him on the app on Ancestry, and I just wrote, hey, looks like we share some DNA. Also looks like you knew my mom some years back. No one did anything wrong. Nothing is owed. Just find it interesting. I was so ready to be ignored or to be like, hey, leave me alone. And so I wrote a message waiting. I was prepared for nothing because I don't want that. Because I don't want to feel rejection. I don't want to feel hurt. I have a distance between me and most people and most interactions because of whatever I've walked through in my life. I'm very well aware of it. And I noticed that there's this distance. And I have an opportunity to eliminate the things that block me from that distance between me and God and me and every other person I come in contact. And I think I'm so open because I check in so deep with the barista like no one else does. But meanwhile, I'm afraid and terrified of my children because they could leave me at any moment. And it's the oddest thing. And identifying it is just one element, and the next is just dropping my guard, putting my phone down, and just being in it, and feeling discomfort, and walking through it, and saying, hey, I love this, and just getting into it. So I wrote Roy, and I said, no one did anything wrong, I find it interesting. I also noticed that you're part of the Neck Up Club. I had to do some backtracking, because he wasn't saying how many years he had. I had to do some backtracking, because I thought, oh my gosh, what if I have more time than Dad? He starts trying to give me fatherly advice. I'll be like, oh, Dad, Oh, no, no, no. So sorry. Time rides, my guy. When you get to where I am, maybe, you know what I mean? But until then, also, I get shotgun. That's kind of how this works, you know? But it turns out he has 2.5 years more than me. And so I messaged him, and what's crazy is he wrote me back within an hour. He was on the golf course in Palm Springs, and he's never quit a round of golf in his life. Halfway through, he cut out. He's like, I can't. He's like, I'm gonna faint. He wrote the kindest message. He said, I found out this past Thursday, and I'm over the moon. I told my wife, I told my daughter, we're ecstatic. He goes, I would love to talk with you. So I needed a moment. You know, this was all just so crazy to me. And then I wrote him, and I called him, and we made a plan to meet each other, and we went to Pasadena, which was halfway between us, a spot called Pie and Burger, and we talked for 3 hours like we had known each other our whole lives. Not a moment of silence, no awkwardness, no weirdness. We just talked the language of the heart because we're both sober. And the next couple days later, he wrote me at like 6 something in the morning, and he said, Sunday was the best day of my life. My daughter being born and learning about you and meeting you. And this little 8-year-old inside of me sat on the couch in my apartment. I just bawled. I had tangible evidence of my birth certificate that had the name of a gentleman to be my father that was not. I had the same death certificate of that gentleman, knowing I would never have the chance to meet him. Legally, if I went to a court of law, they would say, yeah, your dad's gone. And it was dead wrong. God had other plans. And my mom feels horrible. She feels like I could have at least told you it was a possibility, and I just didn't even think. It was just so obvious. You were Cherokee, you know, you were Native American, you were this and that. It just all made sense. You got alcoholism, Bob had alcoholism, you know, it was so cut and dry. She goes, I feel so bad. And I go, Mom, don't you understand? Had I known it was Bob and Bob was my dad, you understand he only has 2.5 years more than me. All of me would have been changed by his alcoholism. My relationship with my mom would not be what it is. Who knows if I would have got sober at 21? Who knows what anything? It's the butterfly effect. You can't change one thing without changing all things. And in God's world, there are no mistakes. And that was what was meant to be. And the relationship I have with Roy today is incredible. Not only have we been able to go to meetings and speak, we're speaking at the Southern California Convention coming up in September. We get to do these amazing life things and like just fatherly something. We went to game 1 of the World Series. Front row. Like the greatest game that I've ever witnessed. Right there next to my dad. And I'm sitting next to a kid and his dad. And we're saying hi, and he goes, I'm here at our first World Series with my son. And my dad looks over me and he like basically crosses my whole body to tell him, I'm here at my first World Series with my son. And I'm like, what? I want to tell you really quick. Damien, on my 16th birthday, 16th AA birthday, the day before, actually, I was slated to, I had met up with Damien and played dominoes, like always. We were just a couple of old men, and he was struggling again, and because he went in and out forever, and he just never was able to piece it together. We made a pact that I'd meet up with him and start like just reading our books again and doing stuff. I'm not sponsored per se, but just get the lights back on, you know. And then he's supposed to give me a cake the next day at 2nd and Hill in Santa Monica. And instead I got a call from Santa Monica Police Department. My best friend was on life support. And I should probably come say my piece. And I thought that it was a sword in the stone kind of a thing, you know. I'd known him for almost 30 years. 30-year friendship, and there was no two people knew each other better. And I thought that I could say certain things that would wake him up, and his body was war. It's like the weirdest thing. And I remember putting my hands through his hair, and he was like, that's my boy, you know. And I remember talking to him like, I know he's gonna wake up. That's the kid. fatherless boys. And I was waiting tables, we were waiting tables together, and he's like, bro, we need to go to 7-Eleven and get you a Bic. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, that dirt lip's gotta go. I was like, dirt lip. I'm like, bro. I was 19 and had never shaved. I was like, this is a fierce mustache. Get out of here. And he goes, bro, you look homeless. And I remember being in the bathroom, and we're in the bathroom of the place we worked, and he's teaching me how to shave. And in the moment, it meant nothing. And years later, I'm watching Ozarks and went into a full panic attack when he's shaving the old man. And I'm losing because it meant so much to me. These moments are so powerful. I feel so grateful to experience them. Not just the times that I shared with Damien, this pain, this sadness of missing him, of missing all the people that have passed in my life. All of it. I can't even explain to you the stuff I've been through. It's unbelievable. In such treacherous ways, in such remarkable, magical ways. It's not one or the other. It's not like I get sober and the world unfolds exactly how it's supposed to, the way I think. It's how God sees fit. And that's the way it's supposed to, and I love that. At the end of the book, there's a part, the spiritual experience, the second appendix. And there's a quote by Herbert Spencer. And it talks about contempt prior to investigation. If you are new